Hey, listeners, Andy here. Thanks for tuning in again. This week, we talk about how we support each other in our dreams. Those dreams could be big things that recalibrate our entire life. They could be hobbies or ambitions. They could be side hustles. We have a great conversation about the whole spectrum of that, how we have learned to support one another. And of course, we make fun of each other and laugh along the way and talk too much about food. So without any further ado, here is this week's episode.
Welcome to Slightly Off Script, the marriage show where we remind you that marriage can be stupid good and wicked fun. I'm one of your hosts, Bethany Needham, here with the most incredible soup chef. Is that a thing? Andy Needham. If you're new to the show, then this will be a surprise to you. But if you've been listening, basically the majority of our opening is me just bragging about your food at this point. But I'm just saying, I just had an incredible chicken soup, actually white chicken chili.
Got it. You nailed it.
Sweet. It did not disappoint. It was delicious. So well done, sir.
I feel like it's a seasonal flavor. It's where it's a rainy, early fall day
Yeah.
when we're recording here, and I was like, we need to do some soup. Soup and grilled cheese, actually.
Yeah. It's my favorite combination on these kind of gloomy days. So I'm giving you all the points today.
If our listeners have like a recommendation for a soup, we're slowly going to turn this into a cooking podcast.
Cooking with your spouse. And by that, I mean your spouse cooks and you eat, which is my life. Nobody wants me cooking, though. It's just, there are a few things that I can make, but not very many.
I think you're better than you give yourself credit for.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Pretend you're bad at it. Nobody asks.
Did you notice any of the upgrades to the studio?
Oh, we have upgrades? I did not. Please inform me. Oh, yes. The mic holders, for sure.
The mic holders.
The mic holders.
Mic stands.
The mic stands, because I didn't have to do that thing where I have to like use every bit of muscle I have to tighten it, because otherwise it just falls.
Well, I feel like I am a researcher and I typically will get the right item, but the mic stand thing is one of those scenarios that, you know, in life where you should have just bit the bullet and got the tried and true, a little bit more expensive option. And now I have a closet full of like different cheapo mic stands that equal more than the money that I spent on these mic
Yeah.
stands.
The last ones were kind of tough, though, because no matter how much you tightened it, it was like 50-50 on whether that thing was just going to
It
let
was an
go.
adventure.
Yeah, it was, for sure.
Finally bit the bullet on that one. So
Yeah. Good investment. I like
yeah,
it.
how are things for you? What's new in your world?
Oh, and I don't feel like anything's really new. Same old, doing the thing, training in the morning at the gym, going to work, doing the work thing. We are headed into a fairly busy season, so I am mentally preparing for a lot of speaking engagements, worship leading, hosting, all the fun things.
You recently had a outing with your staff team, and I get to join you.
Yeah, that was fun. We went up north to a lake, and a bunch of staff were there. It was super fun.
I got invited to join a softball team.
Tell our listeners, what time did this game start?
So yeah, a boyfriend of one of your coworkers that we've had over our house, and we've been
A
hanging out some.
significant other.
Significant other. We've been getting to know each other. We played softball at a tournament that your workplace was a part of. And so he was like, hey, do you want to join a Monday night softball league? And I was like, I'm always looking for opportunities to get it back out on the softball field. The church league's done now. And again, I'm also looking for chances to hang out with people that are not professional Christians, as most of my work is with pastors. And so I was like, yeah, no problem. Like, give me the link. And then I basically said yes to it. And then he's like, oh, by the way, first game is Monday night at 9:15 p.m. start time. 9:15 p.m.
Literally an hour and 15 minutes past my bedtime.
Yes. My favorite part of this whole thing was that when I told our daughter, Mercy, about this, she said her response was, well, I can guarantee you one thing. Mom will never be cheering you on in this league.
You know what? She's not. I mean, I was cheering you on in my heart while I was asleep.
I did okay. The problem is that once you play, do any physical activity that late at night, you are then wired. And so I didn't get to bed till midnight. So I was like, not doing the gym in the morning, which it was probably a good idea because I was hurting pretty bad, but well, normal bad.
Yeah.
And-
I was actually sharing with my coworker who you were playing softball with her significant other. And I was like, I felt really bad because you said to me, because I asked if how it went. And you're like, oh, I feel like you said, I just hurt myself a little, no big deal. But then when I was getting ready to leave for work and you were like, oh, wait, like you were going to come out to give me a hug goodbye and you were limping so bad. And I was like, he came gimping out like he
Yeah.
broke his leg. And I was like, I don't think
I
that's
feel
gonna
okay. I
swell.
feel pretty good. I ran. I was second day. I did slide into one of the bases, and that was one of those things. Like the next morning, I realized like, ooh, that was tough. But the new guy on the team, I was close play. I couldn't make it out. Like I had to get in there safe. So
Bro, I feel like after 40, we're not
yeah,
sliding into bases anymore.
no, that's just not gonna change. So it's one of my dreams. What
It's
am
one
I?
of your dreams.
Yes,
Nice.
I want to be supported. in
Oh
this.
gosh. All right. Well, transition, sir, into today's
What are
topic.
we talking about today, Bethany?
Dreams, callings, and side hustles.
Dreams, callings, and side hustles.
I love the term side hustle. I don't know why. Probably because I've had a lot of them in my life.
You actually have a career now, that is pretty
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah. Yeah. Because basically my whole life has just been, well, that's not totally true. I've done the career thing, but I do really like a good side hustle. So it helps, like ADHD. I actually think it's good for me to have things.
I feel like you could be diagnosed with ADHD just by looking at your LinkedIn.
I feel like when I was actually officially diagnosed, nobody was surprised. The only surprise was you weren't previously diagnosed.
Yeah, I mean, part of it is that you do love adventure, and that's an awesome thing. But yeah, when we talk about dreams, callings, and side hustles, we're kind of talking about the idea of like how do we support one another in our healthy ambitions, and those could be things that are life changing, that could like reorient the entire reality of our life and we've had dreams that we have pursued that have done that, have been like seismic. And then there's other things that are just a little bit, I mean, even doing this podcast where it's just like, it's just a hobby. It really is something, it's a fun thing that we get to do together. We get to serve some people, can make some connections, but it's not like the central thing in our life. So yeah, any other way that you would frame the conversation of the kind of spectrum of things that we're talking about today?
Well, I think one of the things as we were processing through that resonated with me is just this idea of, in marriage, there are two people in a marriage. So with two people come two sets of passions and callings. And yes, it's sort of the two become one, but there is that side of it where you do have passions and callings and hobbies also that just are not necessarily, we don't share them. But what does it look like in a marriage to support one another and come alongside each other? And I actually think, at least my experience, maybe you could speak differently. I actually think this is an area in our marriage that I would put it in the strengths category. I feel like it's something that we have grown and been intentional in, and I celebrate it in terms of something in our marriage that I really appreciate. So I'm excited to talk about it today.
Me too. Absolutely. So let's talk about a little bit of our story, and maybe we could give just a couple examples of kind of the spectrum of type of things that we're going to talk about today. And I think one that would be right in front of us is, I kind of mentioned already about podcasting. I remember was it your friend Jen that initially was like, hey, you should start a podcast. And you're like, what is a podcast?
Yeah. Yeah, it came out of, it was a conference that I used to run. Jen was one of my friends I did it with. And I came out of this conference. It was for teen girls, moms, and mentors. And I'd had this opportunity to kind of sit with the moms and mentors, and they were sharing their stories. And I sort of made a passing comment to Jen, oh man, it'd be great if I could just have a job where I can sit and listen to people tell their stories. And so she was like, oh, well, you should do a podcast. And I literally had no idea what a podcast was at that time.
This is like circa early 2015, 16, somewhere in that range.
I don't even remember.
10 years ago, maybe.
But I had for sure not listened to even one podcast. And so she actually was like, "Let me send you a couple. I'm gonna share them with you. Listen." And so she did that. I was hooked on the idea, but had no idea. I was like, "I would have no idea how to do this." And you stepped in and you're like, "Hey, I'm willing to kinda learn the editing side of it, everything." Like, if you are willing to do the interviewing, find the guests, that side of things, and you were a huge part of why Hey Girl was ever a thing, because I for sure would not have figured out all of the editing and sound equipment, and we also didn't have these wicked nice mic stands that we have today. We've really upgraded.
That was a good example. And, what I think we'll probably draw this out as we get into this more too. But even in that, like, it sounds real simple. Like, I was just like, yeah, let's just do it. But we did also have to have conversations about, like, okay, what does it mean to do it? And, like, what does it look like? And how are we going to fit this into other things in our life? Where we would have tension, and this shows up in other things that we've had too, is more when things get behind and trying to manage expectations. That's a co-laboring thing where I'm trying to help you realize something, but you're also depending on me to be able to do it. So,
Yeah.
I mean, even now, like, as we continue this, we're just a lot more, I think we're more at ease in that tension, but that is one of the things that you have to walk through. If if one person's dream requires a sacrifice, whether it's investing time or energy into it or doing something else so that the other person can do the thing, that conversation about counting the cost, I think is an important one.
Yeah. And recognizing that it's not all rainbows and unicorns. Like, Hey Girl, honestly ended up being a really successful podcast. It was bigger than I ever imagined. I think you as well. When we decided to step into it, we had no idea. And then it grew kind of beyond what we imagined. But it wasn't all us just, yeah, everything is awesome. Like, we definitely had to figure out how to work together in this, me being the procrastinator and you being like, I like to have things done. And a lot of communication for sure, coming like hard communication and good communication. And so, yeah, I don't want to paint the picture that all these like supporting one another streams is just like, just pom poms and whatever. It can be challenging for sure.
Yeah. What other examples do you think about in our marriage that would fit into this category?
Well, I would say when you made the decision, well, we made the decision, but we first started praying around the idea of you going full time with your band. And it was, it's funny looking back now, but I remember sitting in our little house at the time. You were on staff at a church full time. We really, both of us, sensed that God was stirring, that there was going to be a change. And you had a couple of things on the table at that time to consider. And without going into the other things on the table, suffice it to say, the other ones came with a little bit more of a steady
Like a
income,
salary?
a salary. And, we had 2 little kids at the time. And as we actually set time aside, I remember actually singing worship songs together
Mhm.
in your office as we just prayed and really wanted, like, God, where are you leading? And as it became evident that the band was the decision, it was almost comical because of all the things on the list. This was the least, I guess, on paper, responsible decision to make at this stage in our life. But I think, you know, it was something that I could see that God was moving and working in this ministry that you were doing through your band. And so we made that decision. And on my end, that meant you hitting the road and traveling a lot while I stayed home with our kids. Like, this was not going to be we're all moving onto a bus and touring. Like, we actually decided that the best thing we could do for our kids was for me to be back and just maintain stability for them to have home. And they, Mercy was starting kindergarten at the time. So both kids kind of going to school. And so, yeah, we did that for however many
Yeah,
years.
I mean, it's crazy to think it's been well over 10 years now, but I think this is a good example of something where, I mean, it's very different than the podcast. Because, like, to be honest, like, if you had decided, and at different times you did, like, to take a break from Hey Girl or whatever, it's like, it's not affecting much other than the people who are really engaged in that. It's a good ministry, and it is more of a side hustle. This was like the hustle.
Yeah.
And, when everything's on the line, and I'll say, like, one of the things that that was really important as we went through that discernment process was like, that was one of those times when like, if you had been like, you had veto power.
Yeah.
And there are things, and this is where I think like I wasn't going to go travel and like pursue a dream that had a lot of, in the end, a lot of great sweetness to it and a lot of hard things at the same time. But I wasn't going to pursue a dream that was going to cost me my family. And a lot of that is like your temperament. Like, was it something that you were like kind of built to support? And then it's also like, were you on board with it? Like, is it actually like, is this a good time to do this? And are we willing to take this risk together? And I think that, what is difficult, and I don't think we've had a lot of examples like this, but I do have friends and people that, whether it's, I don't know, it could be a call to, one person really wants to go to the mission field, or one person really wants to pursue something that's like off the grid. And it really is just not the other person's temperament or calling. You are much better off laying down your dreams on the altar of your marriage than laying down your marriage on the altar of your dreams.
Mm. Yeah, and such a tough thing, right? Because I think depending on when you got married or the conversations
Yep.
leading in, this is part of why, premarital counseling can be a really helpful thing because these are kind of the conversations to be having before the altar. Because I do think they're real, like, where are you headed? What are your dreams, passions, callings, all of these things? Because the romance and the love and all those things are great. But the reality of marriage in terms of a lifetime, you want to be as best you can, as obviously there are things that are going to come up, but you want to be aligned with your spouse. And that was one thing for us early on in marriage was I remember that, we're on mission together, like
Mhm.
whatever that looks like and how do we support each other? And on a much lighter, I wasn't like I was fully invested in this, but one of the things for me early on in marriage that I did make the decision to lay down was there was a time where I was like, I think I want to go on the mission field. Like, I want to go to Africa and I want to
Yep.
adopt 35 million orphans and live in a mud hut. And the one thing that I realized in the decision to marry you was unless God did some sort of radical shift in you, that was not going to be part of my story if I chose to marry you. And again, it wasn't like I felt like I left something that God laid on my heart. I honestly think that it was part of how God directed my life.
Yeah. For me, New England has always been, I grew up here. I mean, you were born here, but you moved around. So I don't feel like when we met each other, I don't think you would have said like, oh, New England is my mission field. But in time, just through the faithfulness of marriage, like I do feel like, well, that is like a burning passion in me that is something that I would say that you have adopted
Yeah.
and God has sown into your heart. I don't know. How do you experience that?
No, absolutely. I would agree that when we first got married, I did not necessarily share that, like, in terms of the passion of it, I wasn't like, we're going to live here forever. Like, I was fairly new to New England, to be honest. Like, even though I was born here, we moved away for a long time. But I actually have a very vivid memory of reading a book years into our marriage that was a book about a young woman that went to Africa on a mission trip and ended up relocating there, and like God called her there to do mission work. And we joked that you're like, I don't know if I want you reading this book because of this idea that, it's going to give you this idea you're going to want to move us to Africa. But I remember reading the book and her describing in the book this moment of the plane landing where she was moving to Africa and just sensing like, this is the place that God has called me. And in that moment, realizing that exact description that she was given was what I felt every time we would land back in Boston from traveling to different
Mhm.
places. And it was kind of that aha moment for me that, like, God, this is the place that, not to say that God could someday, I don't want New England to ever be an idol, but it's definitely become something where over time in our marriage, something that has always been a passion for you has definitely been something that God has developed in me over the last 23
Mm.
plus years. So,
Yeah. I've always felt very supported by you. I think, part of it over time is when you're pursuing the same direction. And to me, a lot of the passion comes from the people that we get to meet. And now that you've had this season where you've been, when we travel around to churches, a lot of times we're going and seeing like our extended family base, our spiritual family, actual family. But And that is where the joy, I mean, I love fall in New England. I love the landscape. I love all those things, but ultimately what I love are the people.
Yeah.
And that's the burden and the passion of that. So yeah, I wanted to just pivot the conversation maybe into something a little bit. So we've kind of talked about like a side hustle. We've talked about like a big thing, like reorienting our life around kind of a vocational dream. But what do you think about like some of the things that are maybe more everyday, ordinary? And I'm thinking of things that are sort of like aspirations that could even on the shadow side be materialistic. On the healthy side are just like things to pursue. I'm thinking of things along the lines of like you have a passion for creating a beautiful space in our home. That's a dream of yours. And you always like you have, even in our house, if we walked around, you would be able to share certain dreams that you have that are not yet realized. And how can you in marriage balance the not becoming very super materialistic, being comfortable with God sometimes gives us good things, and then supporting each other when you don't necessarily like there are things that you care about that I don't care about as much.
Mm. It's a good question. I guess I can speak from the side of feeling very supported by you. And ironically, this early in our marriage was actually a pretty big tension point.
We got a lot of fights out
We had a
early.
lot of fights early on because I have always had one of the things I have felt very strongly about is interior design and decor and how our house looks and all of those things. And I just came in with the assumption that that's what the wife did and the husband could care less. So he's like, I don't really care. And then turns out I married someone who held those same strong opinions. And so that has taken some time for us to sort of work through and find, I guess, middle ground. But I would say today, at this stage in our marriage, one of the things that I have really appreciated is there are certain little things that, again, I always have dreams that are beyond what may ever be accomplished. But I feel like you are really good at looking for spaces to like, hey, I might not be able to make this whole big thing, this dream come true, but here's what I can do. And so an example being last Christmas, you actually gave me as a Christmas present this like it's like a electric fireplace kind of thing. And I didn't even know you could build, but you went and got lumber and
I'm
you
really good at using YouTube and like the internet.
but you figured out an affordable way to put this fireplace, basically like a faux fireplace, in our bedroom because you knew that was one of the things that I had dreamed, like creating this cozy space for winter months. And I don't know, I just thought it was such a cool thing for you to put in all of that effort, find a way that we could afford to do this, and then, yeah, get a saw out, and there was lumber in the garage. There was just all sorts of things happening.
Still have all of my fingers, and I only wasted maybe $50 worth of boards cutting them the wrong way. So we're doing okay.
But it is one of those things that probably didn't mean as much to you. You're like, I care less if there's this thing in the bedroom.
I mean,
But
I got to have my Tim the Toolman Taylor moment where I stood back and I was like, I have made fireplace. Or that's mixing my Tom Hanks, but
it's like you sound like a caveman, not Tim the
what is it?
Toolman.
What is the movie with Tom Hanks stuck on the island? I have made fire.
Oh, yes. That would be an example for me. And
Yeah.
just, I mean, honestly, allowing me to my little decor. Like, I feel like you're very supportive of me when way too early in the season, I put on Christmas movies and start decorating the house for Christmas because you know how much it means to me. And you're like, I'm gonna let you do your thing.
Well, one thing that has helped us in those rare occasions in our life, like when we moved here, we had a little bit of a budget for things that we could do to the house. And then this last year, as we decided to stay in our house, we were going to do some projects on the house, like we did the roof, some very, the money that you just spend as adults, and you're like, I just spent a whole ridiculous amount of money on a roof. But I've kind of learned, and we have this practice where we work through like coming up with scenarios. And like I remember when we moved into this house, I was like, all right, here's like 4 options. What do you think is the best option? And I think you chose very wisely with that because we got our really nice bed that I love.
That's true. We both benefited.
Yeah. But I think, that's another thing in some of these spaces where it's, investments that you might make in your home or things, I don't know, like that. You've always been very supportive of my outdoor kitchen stuff. So back to bring it full circle.
It is funny how little things like that, though, they're it is fun for you, but honestly, there are some of these things that it does kind of
Yeah.
benefit the marriage.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, part of it too, is finding those things. It might be something that you're more interested in or I'm more interested in, but it's not taking from our
Yeah.
marriage.
I think that's a good inventory to take because I think, one, it's good to have things like for you, it's weightlifting stuff that you're doing. For me, it might be softball that are like, you have no real interest in. I mean, you might occasionally pop in for a game, or if there was like a special event or something like that, you would show up for it, but it's not really that important to you. And in a similar way, these are the it matters to me because it matters to you kind of things. And then there's other things where I think we can support each other's dreams. And I think over the years of marriage, I mean, I just get more joy out of that, of like, what are the things that I might really enjoy, but the benefit of it is when we have guests over that we get to make them smash burgers. I feel like right now you're my PR committee, and like every week I'm just having to make pizza and smash burgers for your friends. But those are things that I feel like there's a benefit to them. It's not just a self-serving type of a thing. I think, having a balance of both of those things is a good thing to just pay attention to.
Yeah, no, for sure.
I think we've gone way off script, not even slightly today.
This is way off script.
Way off script. This is the way off script episode.
But not inappropriate. I always think way off script is highly inappropriate.
So maybe we could approach this in how do you navigate if your spouse brings you something that is going to maybe requires resources, time, energy. Maybe it means they have to be out an extra night. You have to take care of the kids. Like, how do you balance the tension of that and know when to give your yes, when to give your no, and even how to make that decision?
Well, I think first, because we even recently just had to have some of these conversations. I think regular ongoing communication between one another, and that requires honesty and being willing to advocate for yourself, which can be like, I could struggle with that sometimes just out of my own guilt, feeling like I want to show up for everything. We had a calendar meeting recently, which is something that seems like we need to do more and more these days. But essentially, we pulled out the calendar. You had some invites that you had received for us leading worship, going to this event, whatever it is. And again, those are those things that we both actually share a love of doing. Like, we love doing these things. But I also had recognized that we had filled up a lot of our calendar. And so in that moment, sort of being willing to have an honest conversation about, okay, what does margin look like, and being willing to advocate. For me, it was saying, I think I've sort of hit my margin. And even sometimes it's, at least my experience is, there are some opportunities that you have that it's not like the decision is, hey, I think you should do it. I just won't be able to go with you this time, or vice versa. Like, there are things that I will maybe decide to do, whether speaking or different things, that it's better for you to stay home because you have other things. And that's not unsupportive. Like, that's sometimes just how you balance those things. Because we both also work different full-time jobs. So we kind of have to guard those spaces.
Yeah. I think I have had to learn as we've had more conversations, and I've now it's on my radar. Like, you've sort of set some filters in my mind as I'm weighing a conversation that I may not even bring to you. But if I do bring it to you, I've learned to be really honest with you about, like, hey, here's what this looks like. Here's the time commitment. This is what the drive would be. Here's some possible upside to saying yes to this. And there are times when I'll be like, this is going to be really inconvenient for you, but this one, it's kind of a big deal. If everything is a big deal, then nothing's a big deal.
Right.
And so it's weighing some of those things out. I don't mind doing things without you, but then I'm also weighing, okay, how many weekends are we not together?
Right.
The more honest you can be with the pros and cons, and some of it's learning the language of the other person. We learn each other's wiring, being careful not to manipulate those emotions because we have that power as we get to know each other. but there is the sort of the honor of, just like we have love languages, we have a decision-making language, and how we can honor one another. And that, I think, is an important thing just to think about.
Yeah, I also think staying aware of that there can be seasons, and I'll say, because I can only speak to this from my seat, like when our kids were younger and I was home with them, and it was just a lot more difficult for me to go out and do things. And so that was a season where a lot of my support of you was actually releasing you to go and do things, which I do think is important. It's important that some of our support of one another is that we are covering whatever needs to be covered so that the other person.
Like
But
when you would lead a missions trip and I would take the kids. Yeah, that we were kind of, I mean, you definitely took I want to be careful. You took the large majority of that, but there were times when the shoe was on the other foot.
well, and that honestly was the point I wanted to make, is be aware that it's not the same person always
Yeah.
making the sacrifice. And sometimes when we're asking, just an awareness of what it is going to cost the other person, and being intentional about balancing those out. Like if you are in a marriage where there are little kids and maybe it's mom that is often staying home while dad's out at meetings or the gym or whatever else, is all right, dad, what can you do? Like what is an evening or something where you can kind of take that load and let mom be the one that goes and try. And you can't, it's not going to be an even balance. Like it's probably not going to show up that way, but just being aware of that as you're deciding these things, that dreams, a mom, when we have little kids, we also have dreams and things and stuff. They may be less and they may be different, but our side hustles are usually clung to our sides while we're trying to walk. Being aware in those seasons of helping one another out.
Yeah. My encouragement is to keep dreaming as well, and don't lose that. I mean, I think as you get older, you do have more commitments. Kids get older, like finances change. When we made the decision with the band, we didn't own a house. Things were very simple in that phase of life. And now we have 2 kids in college and family that lives with us and all these other factors. And it does the math looks different, but I think that, I mean, I just commend you. Like, I don't feel like we have lost the ability to have a dream. So
Yeah.
that's a fun thing. And who knows what adventures lay ahead for us. So what's one dream that you have in the next 5 or 10 years?
Oh, goodness.
Put you on the spot.
Yeah, you really did. Yikes. I don't know right now. I'm kind of, honestly, I'm living this sort of dream right now that for many, many years, I would not have been able to do the kind of work and step into the career that I have stepped into right now. And this is in some ways a dream come true. And it's not easy by any means, but the fact that I can get, like, it's still kind of wild to me. Like I get to get up in the morning, go to the gym, lift, go to a job that I love, work all day, come home. I'm not juggling little kids or like there are things about right now that, back in the day when I did not have flexibility in my schedule. This felt like this far off never land, and I'm in it right now, and I don't want to miss it trying to jump to whatever might be next. In some ways, I'm loving where we're at right now. And even just having grown kids and FaceTimes with them in the evening like we were doing last night and catching up and hearing their stories, and this kind of feels very much like a dream for me. How about you?
Mine's going to sound so much less purposeful.
It doesn't have to be.
Well, so I mean, I'm sure you know this dream, but like this is our 23rd anniversary is this year. And so we're in the next couple of years, we talked about somewhere between now and our 25th, taking a trip to Switzerland is one of my dreams. Yeah. And so, yeah, I think it's an achievable dream. Won't be easy to do, especially even figuring out how long to go for and to make it all worth it. And I have a dream using points to fly first class to Europe. I don't know if that dream will come true or not. And I'm okay if it doesn't. I will fly in the back of the plane if I need to. But I just think that would be pretty cool.
This is a good example of how I will benefit if your dream comes true.
Oh, I didn't say anything about you flying first class.
All right. I feel very
Does Spirit fly to
I feel very
to
supported,
Switzerland?
and I'll be supporting you from coach. My husband's up there living his dream, and I'm back here supporting him 100%. That probably is not going to go well for you. Just
The only time I've ever been upgraded to first class was a United flight from Manchester, New Hampshire to Newark, New Jersey at 5 a.m. And
it's like the drink cart's not even going around for that flight, pal.
hold your horses there. Because the guy who sat down next, it is 4:45 a.m. and I sit down next to this businessman or whatever.
Is this a 5 o'clock somewhere?
Whiskey neat. That was what he started his day with.
Okay.
Yeah. I had coffee. Just coffee.
Whiskey neat at 4:45 a.m.
Yeah. Right. You know.
What's his name? Maybe I've seen him at work. Just kidding. I love being married to a dreamer.
Mm-hmm.
I have to say that one of the things that I really, really appreciate about you is I have always felt very supported, and not just supported in a, okay, go for it, but like the way that you cheer me on in the things that I do, from work to power lift meets to crazy podcast ideas, whatever. If there was anyone that I would put as an example to people, if you want someone to look to for how to do this well, I would say to look at you, because I honestly think this is something that is a strength of yours. And I benefit from it greatly. And I have always just sensed that from you, and you vocalize it in just how you show up day to day. So I appreciate you.
Wow.
Thank you.
That was strong. I feel like you do the same. I mean, you risked everything to let me pursue my dreams. And I feel like, I've often said that one of the greatest fulfillments of being a spiritual leader in my home is seeing my wife's dreams come true, that you would be the most empowered human on this earth. And so that's the goal. And that is one of my dreams. And I feel like I've seen you step into that reality, and sometimes some crazy things that didn't work out, and a lot of things that are unbelievable, and you wouldn't be the person that you are today without the dreams that you've pursued. And I just pray that God would keep that dream alive in your heart, whether it's for a porch with rocking chairs or
Yes.
whatever it is.
I should have listed that as my dream. I
Yeah,
didn't think about
that
it.
is. I feel like that's one of those dreams that you have the right attitude about. I think it's a great thing. It would benefit our family, but you also have, like, when the time's right. And the time
It might never happen, and
We'll
that's
see.
okay.
That's okay too.
So,
Well, this has been fun.
yeah.
Thanks so much, everybody, for listening in, and we appreciate you so very, very much. So send me your favorite recipes, especially like fall recipes. Like, we're looking for some good, hearty soups, crock pot meals. If you have a go-to.
Or if you don't want this to turn into a cooking podcast, send us some good marriage questions. Unrelated to cooking.
Yeah.
But also your favorite recipes, because that's best.
Great job today.
Thank you.
You're a dream.
Oh, you're my side hustle.
Lose yourself. What?
Just
Bye.